Okay, so we'll start with the problem we wanted to solve. Could you raise your hand if you have a simple way of checking recent financial transactions that you believe you could access? Perhaps a banking application on your phone or something like that? That's a lot of hands. Keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. Right, now keep them up if you have a simple way of checking your vaccination record that you could access right now. Oh, we've lost a lot of hands. So that was the problem we're trying to solve. Oh, you do? Do you work in healthcare? Yeah. Exception the boozer rule. But the challenge we're trying to solve is this idea that people should have a very simple way to check their vaccination records. They're quite important. They don't. So over the weekend what we did a lot of research into where those records are actually kept, which is a very rich and wild field. We thought about a user journey starting from what a user would actually want, and we picked as our prime example a student going to university, very, very topical right now that students going to university have this demand. And actually, as we were working, my 19-year-old at home was messaging me going, where was that printout that I got from the GP with my vaccination record? Because that was the only way that they could get it, wasting their time and the GP's. We built a demo website which we're about to show you using Flask, which is very simple technology, and we also, with our fabulous tech team, did some more work looking at a more robust technology, which we'll not show you today, but we have been working on that as well. So now we will go into the demonstration. I'll hand over to Lucy.
So I'm a student looking to go to university next year, and I want to make sure that I'm safe and protected before going to university, and a lot of that takes with having certain vaccinations. So the universities they like to see what vaccinations I have and vaccinations I need in order to get a placement. And so this is a setup which we've made over this weekend, and we think this is a great way for students or future students to check their vaccination records and see what they need to get or have got. So this is the setup. So if I just do a little demo here, so if we start the checker, do you have an NHS ID? Yes, I do. Enter your NHS. So if you click on this little button by here, and we're just going to use an example NHS ID. So
this is a bit of instruction. We found that NHS has started building some of this, so we're not trying to invent everything from scratch. They've got a bit.
Yeah, so it comes up with what vaccines you've got, and then if we go back and click on continue, is this record up to date? Well, I'm not sure. So I'd say I'm not sure. And then it gives you a list of information that you could get to see if it's up to date, so check with your GP. And before coming to this hack day, I didn't know what a red book was, had no idea. Had to ask Mum what a red book was. so it's been really insightful, really helpful, and that's the demo.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So now we'll talk about what we learned, and we'll do that individually. We'll go around the team quickly so everyone can have a quick section on what they learned. Let's start at the end.
So what I learned is that Lucy coming to Cardiff University in 18 months' time is inconvenient getting her data. But what we have is a public health outbreak in other places of the country, and actually now it's a critical barrier in order to solve a major problem.
I was in the technical team, so I mostly learned about web development, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I learned about how many different places there are to access data to get your vaccination records.
I learned how important it is to empower young adults who are entering their student life.
I learned a lot about how fragmented the data is within the NHS and how that's a big issue.
I learned how to use React JavaScript stuff.
I learned that often stuff going wrong is equally helpful as stuff going right.
And I learned some fun techie things about Flask, about GitHub code spaces, and about Docker.
Great. And that's it. We've got lots of ideas for things to do next, but we're at time, so we'll stop.
Loved your what you learned at the end. Brilliant. Any questions from our judges? Can you start first?
Like, how would you think about pulling in signals from each country in the UK has slightly different setups? How would you think about connecting those together to
So
help people understand?
that was kind of an area of where we could extend this research into. Obviously, a lot of different countries have different sources of their information. They also have different requirements. And then also when they provide those sources of information, they have it in different languages. that aren't always translatable. So there's a lot of different ways we could extend the project into those areas.
And that was one of our areas of research. We had a really helpful input from a GP who was here, who said, yes, to look at ways in which if you come from another country and you had a vaccination record, how could you get it into your GP record? Which would be optimal. You've been working on that.
Yeah, we would. So at the end, there was a sort of save. You got a message where you could get the message out, and so what that would give you is, and what that does give you is a sort of message that you could then share with your GP practice. And what the GP we were speaking to said that would really save them a lot of time, because they get a lot of people kind of say, oh, I'm not sure what I've had, and all of that, and that would speed that up.
I'm just going to say that we have GP to GP records will change within different parts of the UK.
Yeah.
But it still not will go from England to Wales or from Northern Ireland to Scotland. So if anybody's got any power to change that and solve it, please do.
Yeah.
So did you say it's going to happen over time?
No, I said somebody needs to solve that.
Yeah.
Well, UNIS does it.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, they say it did.
Not within country.
So there's obviously a team within the NHS Hack who manage immunisation records. What would you take from what you've learned this weekend to feed back to them?
So what we found as part of our discovery was there are individual features that have been written within that for the immunisations, but what's clear is that the range of sources is much bigger than the ones they're dealing with. So they're really good at recent vaccinations like the COVID ones, but they don't seem to have any way to do these kind of things, which is pull in all the vaccination information from somebody who's come to the UK or crossed between different parts of the UK. But we'd love to talk to them.
Did you find reasonable? Did you look for the fire documentation on vaccines?
We did. Claude, he's gone. So that little demo that we did was actually calling a live sandbox that the NHS has set up, which is fire-based immunisation data. So we did spend time on that. We had another team member who unfortunately left.
Joe?
You mentioned you started looking at the user journey. How would people know this even existed?
So again, if I think our thing was, can we try and understand and unpack the problem? The actual answer is this should be in the NHS app in England or Wales. Like, it's not that we would ultimately build it, but we're trying to understand the complexity to help the people who would have to build it. And if they put it in those apps, it reaches millions immediately.